Introduction. What got you here won't get you where you want to go. Marshall Goldsmith. When I graduated from college, I found America was mired in a workplace revolution, disguised as a workplace evolution. Cash-strapped companies perilously tied to Wall Street predictions were being forced to change the way they looked at their business, their people, and their customers. Long-term prosperity seemed to cede to the whims of quarterly earnings statements. The uncertainty brought on by corporate raiders and junk bond dealers rapidly replaced the perceived safety of lifetime employment, pensions, and gold watches. Advancements in technology altered the very nature of work, leaving both blue and white-collar workers searching for answers. As a result, organizations, managers, and employees were forced to adapt to new expectations at a rate that far outpaced their ability to change, creating a chasm between what organizations needed their people to do and what their people were prepared to do. It didn't help that my generation was already a cynical bunch. In our youth, we had watched with calloused indifference as iconic businesses moved their operations overseas, destroying the vitality of entire towns and regions in the process. Every time another member of the greatest generation was forced to retire in the name of fiscal responsibility, he took with him the knowledge and goodwill that has spurred decades of peacetime economic prosperity. Companies weren't just losing talented people, they were losing the fabric that bound their organizations together, casting a cloud of apathy and mistrust that hung over the American business landscape. As companies struggled to hang on to the comfort of their past, they realized their history no longer prepared them for the present, let alone the future. Everywhere I turned, I watched one-time revered leaders and organizations say one thing, do something else, and believe yet a third thing. The age of misalignment was upon us, unleashing a tsunami of change we never saw coming. The shift that created the rift. Paradoxically, the advances in technology that created workplace efficiency and simplicity ultimately advanced workplace complexity just as quickly. As the gatekeepers either retired or were pushed aside, technology unlocked the doors to trade secrets industry leaders had managed to protect for generations. This newfound knowledge leveled the playing field between the haves, the have-nots. What was no longer mattered as much as what could be. Size, proximity, and experience were no longer the prime determinants of the success or failure of any organization. Passion, ingenuity, and resourcefulness became the new currency of business. Products and processes were reverse engineered and shared electronically across the globe, propelled forward by teams untethered by the traditional constructs of how work used to be accomplished. Those organizations that did not readily adapt to these new ever-changing rules were left to ponder, what happened to our one-time comfortable competitive advantage? As the rules of work evolved, new societal expectations acted as a cauldron, forever altering what workers, customers, and stakeholders expected from employers. Executives who had spent an entire career managing processes and a monochromatic workforce suddenly found themselves managing increasingly diverse teams. This new generation of employees was no longer willing to accept business as usual. They refused to accept the same indignities experienced by the predecessors. They demanded change. They demanded a healthier workplace, one committed more than just their employer's success. Merely collecting a paycheck was no longer good enough. They demanded opportunities to do work that mattered, to be an active participant in their careers. They demanded to work for organizations that consistently aligned behaviors with expectations, aspirations, and values. More than anything, they dreamed of breaking loose from the shackles of tradition and the restraints of organizational inertia. They dreamed of a day when giving the best of themselves to their teams, employers, and communities would be reciprocated by their organizations. Organizational misalignment did more than just feed our skepticism with corporate America. It fed a vicious epidemic that had remained hidden in plain sight for generations. Since the Industrial Revolution first shifted work from farms to factories, employee disengagement had lived on the periphery of most every organization. Now, as employees openly questioned their employers' intentions, the social malady began to spread like a virus. No industry was immune. It spread through misaligned priorities, conflicting agendas, and displaced loyalties. It eroded the well-being of once thriving organizations, slowly shifting the focus away from the business's mission and towards the organization's dysfunction. The resulting discord left employees at all levels, not just those in frontline jobs, or those entering the workforce for the very first time, to question their place in the organization's long-term plans and whether or not their investment in their employer was prudent or merely a waste of time. It really shouldn't have been a surprise that employee disengagement affected the health and behaviors of so many organizational cultures. After all, when markets were closed and workers were plentiful, success was far less dependent on individuals than on product development or access to resources. Leaders have blindly focused their attention on what they perceived as more pressing matters. This myopic vision created cracks in the foundation of once thriving businesses. Disengagement filled these crevices created by misalignment, creating a struggle that continues to this very day. The need for energetic, motivated, highly engaged workers continues to clash with cultures ripe with tired, overwhelmed, disengaged workers in organizations who confuse leadership with management. The question remains, how do we repair a system that has been broken for far too long? Perhaps it was because I was on the inside looking out rather than on the outside looking in that the solution seemed so obvious. I recognized relatively early in my career that the core issue driving employee disengagement was the concept of misalignment. Misalignment between what organizations did, said, believed, valued, expected, and aspired to become. Every time organizations did something that contradicted what they did, expected something that contradicted who they aspired to be, and believed something that contradicted what they professed to value, they amplified the mistrust and cynicism their people felt. I understood that employee disengagement was not something that could be fixed with a program, a meeting, or a survey. It could only be fixed by fundamentally changing how organizations, leaders, managers, and employees interacted with each other.